When I was like 10 or 11 or 12, something like that, I had this vision, and it's clear as day. And I thought to myself, this is crazy. I thought to myself, I'm gonna make a lot of money, and then I'm gonna take that money and I'm gonna help a lot of people.
You're building a life by design, right? Because the values that are important to you. And one of the number one things that gets sacrificed in this industry when you're just trying to become successful, right? And you obsess about this craft is oftentimes people lose sight as to why they're doing it, and family gets affected. Hey everyone, I am coming to you guys with someone that is a dear friend of mine and someone that I've also just grown up in the business with and watched him from afar. The one and only Ricky Carruth. I'm honored to have you here today. I always humbly say I have some of the most amazing friends in the industry, Ricky. So to be able to call you a friend and also to have you bring me coffee is a treat. Welcome to Orlando, Florida. And I'm so excited to have you here and just honestly just talk, connect, and see where this goes. And I know that you're always dropping the gems, right? That's what you're known for. But I want to start off with a thought that I had when I sat down with you earlier was like, one of the things I love the most about you is how committed you are to the industry. And when I see you dropping things on social media, the authenticity that pours out through your pores. And I always ask myself, like, people want to know, where do you find your passion, but also where do you go to just get the knowledge? And you just spit straight facts. And that was one of my thoughts. I was like, I love what you do. I love how do you do it, but I'm sure there are people who want to know, how do you do it? And what gives you the confidence to just go out there. And sometimes you might people might not agree with you. And I've seen that happen, but man, you're so just passionate. Yeah. Even if people don't believe in you, I respect so much what you do. So just let us know kind of what goes through your mind and let's start off with that.
Well, I think, thank you for all those kind words. I think it comes from a really deep place of curiosity. I just love real estate so much. And I grew up roofing houses and with my dad, and that's that was where the real grit was just infused in me. And growing up roofing, watching him roof, living paycheck to paycheck, it's just that's not what I want to do. I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I lived the life as a kid growing up of someone who doesn't have the nicer things. We weren't poor. We weren't homeless or anything. We had everything we needed, but that was it.
Right.
And it was just there were some things that we couldn't do, that we wanted to do, and I was like, that's not how I'm going to live when I'm an adult, And I'll tell you a funny thing. When I was 10 or 11 or 12, something like that, I had this vision, and it's clear as day. I thought to myself, this is crazy. I thought to myself, I'm going to become really great at something. Okay. I'm going to make a lot of money, and then I'm going to take that money and I'm going to help a lot of people. And I literally had that vision when I was a teenager, a preteen, back then. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what vehicle I was going to use to do all this or what I was going to become great at. Definitely real estate was not something I was even thinking about at the time. Of course, I'm fishing every day and running around in the dirt in Alabama and, doing kid stuff. But my dad had me and my brother on a job site when we were 7 or 8, cleaning up the job site and stuff. My mom and dad never, we didn't go to preschool, and we never had a babysitter one time. So they brought us to work with them. And so my mom owned a hair salon and my dad owned a roofing business. So they both owned their own businesses, but yet were the number one worker in the businesses.
Wow.
Right. So so it's so interesting when you really unpack this. I got to see the entrepreneurial side of the world through the lens of a hard manual working blue collar person. Right. And so it's really crazy. And then to take it a step further, my mom was a big dreamer. Right. And my dad was a hard worker. Right. And so the big dreamers, they don't really like to work hard. They think that one big dream is going to take them to the moon. So they have these outlandish big dream ideas that they try here and there. Right. And the hard worker doesn't want to risk anything on these big ideas because they're scared they're going to lose everything they work so hard for. So they're very conservative, right? So listen to how I grew up here. I had both two entrepreneurs who actually were the mules of their business, one big dreamer and one hard worker, right? And so all that, when I look back, was infused in me. And I'm kind of like the product of like a big dreamer that works hard. Like there's a conservative side of me that doesn't want to take risk. And then there's this side of me that's just like, go for it and takes all kinds of risks, right? And then there's that entrepreneurial side who also works in the business. And, it's crazy because I've always been a single agent with one assistant. I never did the team thing or built a team or whatever. So you see glimpses of what they did as far as like being the worker of their business in what I do, right? But I took it a step further because I was able to, I want to say, use my talents to visualize a better life. And it all comes back to that vision. And so when I dropped out of college, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I realized real estate's one class to get your license. And you have the same opportunities as people who went to school for 10 years. And so I'm like, that's what I want to do, not to take the easy way out, but take the fast track to getting my career started as early as possible so that I could then work really hard to be great at something. And I still wasn't like focused on that vision I had back then.
You didn't realize that was what it was going to marry. Those two were going to marry.
Like, because I never thought about being a real estate coach or like writing books or speaking or anything like that. It wasn't until 15 years later when I finally hit $1 million a year through losing it, going homeless, coming back, all the things and succeeding for a while before I'm like, I don't think I want to do real estate forever. What else can I do? Oh, I have this amazing story. Maybe this can help other people and I can build a business off of it. And hey, maybe I can tell everyone how to do everything for free so that I can build a massive brand and then build businesses off of that where everybody wins. It's not just me take. It's a, we all win kind of thing. So, and I've stuck with real estate. I haven't tried to like veer into like general sales or anything like that because I just love it. Yeah. And I love all that stuff. And so when I'm on social screaming about stuff and people are, giving me some backlash about it. The thing is I've been doing this for 22 plus years, 23 years almost. And I've been through all these cycles and I've seen all these things. And so when I say things, it's not coming from a place of something I read somewhere. It's coming from 23 years of experience coming out. And when somebody backlashes against it, it doesn't really affect me too much because I know what I'm talking about. And when I give agents advice, if they take my advice and what I say is most likely going to happen doesn't happen, they still win. I give them advice that they win no matter what happens. Right. And if you make a big bet on what you think might happen, make the bet that you win either way if the thing doesn't happen, but you win really big if the thing does happen. Right? And so at the NAREP event I spoke at this morning, that one of the questions was about how do you see through the data? Like there's data and some data is so far right, so far left. And how do you kind of read between the lines and stuff? And I was like, raw data, like data in your MLS is the data. There's no like, that's the data. Like there's no influencing one way or another with that. And I finally realized what he was talking about. He was talking about how do you kind of tell your clients what's going to happen. I was like, you never give them advice based on what you think the market is going to do. I said, please don't get this confused with this, what I'm talking about with what might happen. That's internally for your business planning to build a massive business, not to share with your clients. And I'm glad he brought it up because you have to keep those two separate. right? Because you can't, if you advise them on something that might happen and it doesn't happen, then they're going to be upset with
They're
you,
gonna be
right?
disappointed. Yeah.
And so, you know, like when I'm on social, if I was still selling, I wouldn't be doing the things I'm doing on social. I would be advertising properties on my social, right? But since I'm where I am, I feel like I can predict markets to give agents an edge. And the reason how I justify doing it, even if the prediction doesn't come true, which I've been right and wrong, then they still win. If they took my advice, they win either way. See what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I like to put everything into a win-win bucket, and help agents do that. But yeah, I'm just so curious about real estate. And so that's kind of what drives me, because all the data is there. Because if people think, well, how does he know all this and that? Well, a lot of it is 23 years experience, realizing what cycles are and what trends do and stuff like that. But the other part of it is just reading the raw data and then inputting that into my 23-year experienced database.
Yeah. I love that. And thank you for sharing the story of your mom and your dad. I just had a visual of seeing little Ricky going to the, to the construction site and, probably being a great helper and learning and observing. And
there's a picture of my dad. I think he might be holding me. I think he's holding me, or I might be standing next to him, but I'm in a diaper and we're on a job site, and I was there. I need to find that picture and post it somewhere, but yeah.
Those moments are just so beautiful when you could reflect back, and find out, go back and tap into what really has helped, mold you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mold you into who you are. I loved how you talked about your mom being a big dreamer. I could see that in you, right? And I also could see your dad based on the insane work ethics that you have. Like, I see you putting in the work. Like I said, to me, you've always been an industry leader that I've looked up and respected. And then I love your humility, because I remember the first time I met you, I stopped you at a conference and, you're there, you're shaking everyone's hand, and you're also studious. Like, I've seen you also, like, you're there, you're front and center. You never, in my opinion, I've never seen you come across as like, you're too good to be there with everyone else. You're in the trenches with people, and I love that. So thank you for being that leader. And
I still feel like I'm a kid on a roof.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that vulnerability and the way you lit up when you were talking about your family. By the way, I don't know how often you do that, but there was a very beautiful sense, energy that I felt when you were talking about those stories.
Yeah.
And, it's so funny where people say to me, oh, Veronica, like, you've done this. I want to be like you. I'm like, look, every one of us have our own story that shaped us into who we are, right? If you don't know Ricky's story, right? Ricky is just living out, right, his story based on, again, what you went through, what you were taught, those family dinners, maybe the conversations that you overheard. And I always tell people, like, you got to find your story. Like, what drives you? What fuels you, right? And your daughter, which I know she's very important to you. I had the pleasure of meeting your lovely wife and your daughter in New York earlier this year, and watching how you're raising her, watching how you are prioritizing your family. They're
here now. We're going to Disney tomorrow.
I'm super, that doesn't surprise me. I love that. You're building a life by design, right? Because the values that are important to you. And you know how it is. This industry is pretty tough. And one of the number one things that gets sacrificed in this industry when you're just trying to become successful, right? And you obsess about this craft is oftentimes people lose sight as to why they're doing it, and family gets affected. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think everybody hears these things like, go sell 100 homes, sell thousands of homes, and one of the things that I learned early on in my business, and we run different models, right? But I respect how you've ran your business. I found leverage early on in my career, because I also found, I don't want to say I cracked the code, but I did a really, really good job of attracting a high level of volume that came to me all at once. And then I realized I cannot do this alone, right? Or I cannot give good service if I do this alone. And I started leveraging out my time. But even then, when I was selling 100 plus homes before I decided to start a team, like, my family, it it was affected.
Mm-hmm.
So through the years, like, you know, what have you found works for that single agent or that agent who's building to still have and I know the balance word is a taboo here, you know, right? How do you train and teach your agents, right, to say, hey, you can still work really hard, right, because this is going to require hard work, but those moments are so important, right? Remember who you're doing this for, and it's to fund the life by design that you want. How did you handle that, or how do you coach your agents to deal with that?
Well, it depends on where you are in the whole process, you know, because when I was coming up, I didn't have a family. We got married in 17 and we had our daughter in 19. And 17 was the first year I made a mill. I'd sold 100 properties every year since 14, so 14 years. And I met my wife in 2010. So that's a big part of it. It's a huge part of it, is that there was such a big gap between when we met and when we got married. And we were literally friends first, telling each other and everyone we'd never date, right? I mean, like, but we were close.
That's cool.
Right. But we were really good friends, like honestly friends.
Did she say, Ricky, my friend's a workaholic at the time? Were you a workaholic?
Oh, did she say that?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Now, this is what's really funny is that so I worked at Remax of Orange Beach, and I would get there at 7:30 every morning. Right. And so I would park my truck. Nobody was there ever that early. So I parked my truck in the same spot, because I had my pick, the parking lot was empty. I would back it up. And I didn't do this on purpose, but it was literally on the road almost, where like everybody could see it. And it was just where I parked. I didn't do it so everyone would see my truck. But after like a while, because my truck would be there at 7:30 in the morning, and then it would be the last truck there at night too. Like I worked I was in that office making it happen. And people started, like, my truck actually started to build a brand for me. Somebody who's like always works, right? But what's so funny is that I met her at Remax, and she was my broker's assistant.
Oh, wow.
And what's so funny, there's a lot of funny things here. We went to high school together and didn't even know it. So she was a sophomore and I was a senior, and we didn't know each other then at the same high school. And then we met at Remax of Orange Beach 10 years later. And, but this is what's so funny. It was her and me. This is probably one of the reasons why we started to become friends, because we were the only ones in the office at like 6:30, 7:30. Like she was down there. So it was a 2-story building, and she was downstairs in the broker's office, like, you know, doing stuff. And I was upstairs in my office, like doing stuff. And like when I'd leave, she'd see me, or like she'd still see my truck. And like after a while, we became friends. And then we're just honestly friends, because like you don't date people in the office. I'm gonna date my broker's assistant. Like, what is this? And so that's kind of how it started out. But like we're both workaholics. That's what's so crazy about it, is we both are on the same level with work ethic, right? And so we became friends, and then we were friends for a long time before we actually started dating.
Wow.
And then we dated for a long time before we actually became married. And because of all that, I really think that is one reason why it works so well.
That's so cool.
Is because now she's a stay-at-home mom now. She quit whenever we had our daughter. She's a stay-at-home mom, you know, but I work at home now. Right. Since the pandemic, I was never home.
Wow.
Like I never wanted to work at home, but the pandemic made me get out of the office. And then when I started working at the house, and I was there for whatever, a year through the pandemic or whatever, I was like, I ain't going back.
I like this.
I love this.
You know, thank you for sharing that. And I really want to talk about that, because I went through, and I don't want to make this about me, but I just really want to say thank you. I used to be the girl that would be the first in the office, last to leave. I was wired to go to the office. And post-pandemic, I was telling someone the other day, I was like, you know, COVID, we learned a lot, but like I am still dealing with the change of going back to that old school way I was like, I am so productive at home. I'm so productive in my home office. I was like, and I just learned to embrace this COVID world where now I feel like it's a hybrid, and I'm like, I kind of like this jam over here. So it started affecting me going back into a office setting the way I used to. And I was like,
it's different.
It's different. And it's okay. It's okay that it's different.
Well, it's always going to be different, through the years, and things are changing and everything. But as far as the balance goes, like for new agents trying to crush it or whatever, I think part of the imbalance comes from impatience.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get there quicker than humanly possible, right? And you got to realize how long of a game this is and how long it takes for your business to mature. It's kind of like, you can't be a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And then you're a 6-year-old next year or tomorrow, right? You have to be 5, and then you go through a year and then you're 6. It's the same thing with your real estate business. Like, it takes time to mature and to like develop those relationships and allow those relationships to mature and blossom, to the point that they trust you at that high level to do business with you. And when it happens, it's amazing. But that's why I try to preach on taking advantage of what the market gives you, so that you can visualize having that huge blossom moment in the next 3 to 5 years, right? It's always like a 3 to 5 year play. When I got back in, it was foreclosures, right? Let me sell a bunch of foreclosures, and then those buyers will sell in the 3 years after that, upgrade, refer me, 4 people that do the same, and it will just be this massive thing, right? And that's what happened. And it's like right now, if agents would just take this opportunity to stack listings up, oh man, would you crush it in the short term because you got all the listings and the few that sell will be yours. But number 2, all those relationships, because when you keep like, say, 10 to 20 active listings at all times, that means you talked to thousands of people and developed hundreds of relationships with people that will do business with you later. So it's like the byproduct of having 10 to 20 listings actually equals hundreds of thousands of conversations, but hundreds of real relationships with people who are going to do business with you later, which that's what like blossoms your business. So like, speaking of balance, it's like figure out the formula.
Yeah.
So I'm a very commonsensical math guy, not like an algebraic, calculus kind of person, but very commonsensical. So like, I can do the math, the real simple math. It's like, and once I know the math, then it's over. Like it's a wrap, right? So like math, for example, like if I have a goal to talk to 5, to have a great conversation with 5 property owners a day, right? Where I get their info, let's stay in touch. Maybe they do a deal, maybe they don't, whatever. 5 a day. So I start thinking 5 a day is 25 a week, 100 a month. Okay, that's 1,200 in a year. Now that's 2,400 in 2 years, 36, 48, 6,000. In 5 years, I could have 6,000 people that I talk to that own the exact property I want to sell, that I've built this relationship with. And now it's even really deep because they've been seeing my content and emails and stuff for 4, 5, 6 years now. And now I've got this massive business. And it all came from me talking to, like having a goal to have 5 great conversations a day, but I could see how the math compounds over time. So as long as I can visualize how the reason why agents jump around from thing to thing to thing to thing is because they never have clarity in what they're doing at the moment is going to get them where they want to be. So they jump to the next thing because they can't see it actually getting them there. And so that's why I preach the weekly email, because if you do the weekly email, it doesn't matter what your lead gen is. If you talk to them and have a great conversation, whether they do something or not, get them in your weekly email. Now they'll never forget you.
Yeah.
And so now you can actually see yourself compounding those relationships over the years and having a massive business without killing yourself or having this imbalance or getting burnt out or anything. And so if you can like be like, okay, I'm not going to make $1 million this year. Like, you're not going to make $1 million off of the leads you got the year you made the $1 million. You can make the $1 million off maybe 10% off the leads you got that year, but the other 900 is going to be from all the leads you got in the past. And so people want to like make $1 million. It's like, well, it's not going to happen this year. Like it's got to be a compounding effort. You got to have some machine that compounds it. So like visualize it in that way. And so if you have the clarity of what you're doing is going to get you where you want to be, then you can find the balance with your family, because it's like, I had those 5 great conversations. Now I can chill with the family. I did what I needed to do to have a massive business in the next 3 to 5 years. And then you can kind of find that balance. So I think agents are just trying to get there too fast without without doing the math.
Yeah, I appreciate you kind of breaking that down. One of the quotes that right now has me kind of refocused and inspired was, I just posted it the other day. It's like Jeff Bezos says, be stubborn on the vision, flexible on the details and the tactics to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was just such a reminder of like, right, when you know what you're doing, it's okay. It's going to look different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the season of your life, right? If you're starting out and you have to put more hours in, one of the things that I learned from an agent early on was he would do breakfast with his family like super, super duper early, because he knew he wasn't going to be home for dinner. But he wanted to make sure that family time was important.
Who was
I forgot who the agent was.
Oh, okay.
But it was a really great, like, he was like, I knew my listing appointments were during dinner time.
Uh-huh.
He was like, so I made that family dinner time in the morning. He said, like, to let my wife sleep in. I would do pancakes every morning for my kids. I would drop them off at school. I made sure. And that was our family dinner time was in the morning, because that was my listing, that was my peak hour for him. That worked for him in that season. Another really, smart couple that I absolutely love, they have their morning couples huddle every morning, talking about like, hey, honey, this is what my day is going to look like. It's going to be this, I'm going to, she knows, he knows, and they're tag teaming and it's like, so I think you have to find that rhythm, right? What works, but they are working on a plan together, and they know that there's
the key.
They're working on a plan together. That's the thing and I just loved how you shared your perspective. And again, I think it's different seasons, but as a mom, right, who raised 5 kids in this industry, while I was raising 5 kids, I worked in this industry. It's important to me to talk about this stuff, because I think people want to, maybe perhaps compare themselves to others. And I think you need to just honor where you're at and come up with a plan that works for you and your family.
It's like an agent texted me and said that they got in a car wreck and they couldn't walk for, I can't remember how long she said, 3 months maybe. She can't walk or whatever. And she's like, what do I do? How do I keep the business going? I can't really afford to, refer it out and stuff like that. And I was like, but you can't walk.
Yeah.
And, I know you want to do all this stuff and get all this money, but like, this is like, you need to focus on you for just a second, and learn how to, rehabilitate yourself to walk is kind of the most important thing right this second, If you have to refer some stuff out and take a little cut for the time being, it is what it is. This is your story. This is your path. But the guy that does the breakfast with the family and stuff, because he's going to be doing listings for dinner and everything, it kind of brings back, and I've been saying this because it's so interesting. This is so interesting, and I've said it on every podcast and stage I've been on lately because it is so interesting. I was at BAM Mania, the BAM guys, and I was speaking there, and there's 500 agents, and I didn't prepare anything. I rarely do. I just like to shoot from the hip, and it's way more authentic. And I didn't know what I was going to say or whatever. And halfway through, I asked the audience, I don't know why it came to me. I said, wait a minute. I was like, show of hands, how many of you want to be a real estate agent forever? How many hands you think went up?
Less than half the room?
0.
Wow.
0. And I said it today at the NAREP thing, right? And 0, right? And so I said, well, wait a minute. You guys, let me get this straight. Y'all are real estate agents. You spent time, money, and energy to come here to learn something that you don't even want to do. Right? And so it made me think about the industry as a whole and where we are mentally with this whole thing. We're out here doing something that we don't want to do, it seems. I got out of the business, right? Like, and so I'm speaking from deep experience when it comes to this subject. And it kind of makes me realize, like, my second broker told me real estate is the best. If you treat real estate like a job, it'd be the best paying job you ever had. And it's exactly true. It is a job, and it is the most lucrative job on the planet. I mean, like, you have to be there. It is literally, if you're not there, it's not happening. You can do things, you can build teams, you can step out, you can do certain things, right? But the actual people that are selling, that are the real estate agents, right? At that point, you're not an agent anymore. You're a team leader, or you're this, that, or the other. The agents, if they're not there, nothing's happening. It's a job. And so it made me kind of think about what being a real estate agent really is.
Yeah.
Right. And I kind of realize, I don't know if I'm right or not, or if it's true, but it seems to be that real estate, being an agent, is nothing more for people than a vehicle, a monetary, a financial vehicle to get them to what they actually want to do in life.
Yeah.
As opposed to them actually wanting. There's people that say, I want to sell forever. Yeah, you say that now, right? You say that now. But nobody really wants to do it forever, right? It's not really and that I found that so fascinating. And so for the people that don't have the balance, or that are doing the breakfasts and not the dinners and stuff like that, it's almost like, okay, when you're in it and you're trying to build it, yeah, do the things like the breakfasts and do everything you can to stay connected. And when you feel something getting disconnected, pull back from your business and go all in on your family and all those things, but realize what this actually is. It's a temporary vehicle, right? It's a temporary vehicle that you're using to get yourself to a financial place that you can then do what you actually want to do with your life.
So good. So good. And I think we don't have enough of these conversations, right? Because, you and I kind of like, this is our industry. We've been in the business for a while now, but it's true. We've evolved into another, I would say, chapter of the business, right? You're a coach, you're a speaker, you're an author, you are proven, you can teach people strategies so that they can apply to their business. But I mean, I definitely don't want to do the things I was doing 20 years ago. I don't want to do the same things that I was doing 15 years ago. I enjoy the season that I'm in real estate right now. And I think we all can like you just said, real estate is such a lucrative. If you do it well, it could be a really, really awesome career, but it usually is to fund the life that we want, right? Tony and I talk about, like, what do we want? It was like, we want to travel. We want to live abroad. We want to be able to, I was fortunate enough to take care of my mom when she got sick. And, we've been able to spend time with her. And, now my kids are grown and grandbabies are coming into our world. And I'm like, man, like, my life for the first time, I'm looking at it from a completely different lens of like everything I did over the last 20 years has prepared me for the next season and phase of my life. Thanks to all the hard work I put in and what I've learned, the mistakes I've made, and now the, let's say, investments that I made that were good ones. And then, the career capital, right? The career capital that has been built through it that affords us this, like you said, this lifestyle. And we don't take it for granted. I know that because I know you, just like me, we both went through the '08 crash and we know what that looks like. But I think there's a level of maturity, right? That comes along with this time, coming around this time around, right? Yeah. I don't think you or I are going to get caught with our pants down.
No. I'm set. Like, I have, my investments are so solid. I don't have to do this. Yeah. I don't have to be here. I don't do anything for money anymore. Yeah. I'm actually bringing Zero to Diamond back. I'm done charging for coaching. Like But
y'all heard that? Y'all heard it? Was this the first time you said it? He's bringing it back?
No, I want to come back to something, but now that we're on that subject, I did free coaching. I monetized it through affiliates, through the brokerage. I did low ticket. I did high ticket. Right. I did it every which way you could do it, and was successful. I mean, I made millions in each avenue. And what I realized, so now I have all the data, the real data, like the data that applies to me, how I operate. And I realize now, after experiencing it all, that free was the best way. And so I'm bringing it back, and I know exactly how to blow it up. Like, now I know exactly what it is and like exactly how I want to do it in a way that buys me back all my time, makes me the most money, impacts the most people, right? But I wanted to go back for a second on this subject because you're right. We don't talk about this enough, but this has to be said, that life is way too short. And if you don't want to actually be an agent forever, and you know that the only thing between you and your goals are thousands of one-on-one conversations with people in your markets, okay, that's the only thing between you and your goals, then why are you prolonging that? Like, when you prolong the thousands of one-on-one conversations, you're prolonging your goal, which is pushing what you actually want to do out further at past real estate. So I'm like, be the buffalo that runs through the storm, right? You see the storm, which is phone calls or one-on-one conversations or whatever it is, and you run to it and you get through it. That way you get out to the sunny side quicker versus being the cow. See, most agents are the cows. They run away from the storm catches them, they're still running the same direction with the storm now, and now they're just in it forever, versus turning right around and going right through it. And that way you can get to the sunny skies as soon as possible so that you can move on to do the things you actually want to do in your life. My best friend and first and only mentor in real estate taught me everything I know. This guy, like I teach a handwritten letter, I got it from him, that he inspired the weekly email. He taught me in my first year how to look up property owners. You know, he made calls with me. He taught me all this stuff. When I came back into real estate the second time, he was still crushing it. And I'm like, teach me. And he taught me. I came back in, I crushed it. Then I moved to Remax where he was. And then my goal was to beat him. And I eventually did. And then they found him dead a couple weeks ago, unexpectedly. Yeah, in his car. And he was 53. And this dude, I'm telling you, he's a legend. This guy was the greatest agent I've ever known. He was such a marketing genius. Like a lot of my stuff was influenced by him. And we were like brothers. Like we went to football games together, like dinners. He came and watched my fights and kite surfing. Like he came on the beach and watched me kite surf, you know, like we did stuff. And his family, and it's funny because his wife and my wife's mother were best friends, right? And my wife, Carlin, remembers when she was a little kid, Scott's wife coming over and then them going out and like a babysitter being there, you know, like it's weird, right? Like it goes deep. And he was found dead. And it's just like, I was actually at the conference at that day when my wife called me and told me that. And I looked him up after I was in shock for a second. I looked him up to see what he sold this year, and it was 10 million. I was like, I wonder what he sold since 2020. So I went back to 2020, and out of there's 3,000 agents in our MLS, and he was number 35 since 2020. And then I was number 36 out of 3,000 agents. I was right under him this. And I mean, I quit selling a couple years ago, but I was like, he's gone, he's passed away, but I'm still chasing him kind of thing. Right. And it was a God thing. Cause I was like, look at this. Our names are right next to each other on this list of 4,000 agents. Right. But I say all that to say this: life's too short. And so be the buffalo. Why are you like doing all these shiny penny things on social and trying to, you know, do some weird stuff, right? Just call the people you want to do business with and build relationships as soon as possible so you can build your business up to the capacity you want so you can move on with your life and do things that you actually want to do. We're prolonging and spreading this out too long. And a lot of agents never get there. And that's the ones that I really feel for, because they can do it. The only thing holding them back is their fear to call somebody.
Yeah.
Right. It's the only thing holding them back is what somebody might think about them if they called, or if somebody might think they're lying about something, or something that's not even true. You know, like there was an agent in Fort Lauderdale. She was like, I'm scared to call people because they're going to think I'm lying about having a buyer when she had a buyer. I'm like, but you have the buyer. If somebody said, you're lying about that, I'll be like, well, I'll bring them to your house right now. You want? I
don't know why I could totally see you doing that.
I'll be right there with the buyer. You know, saying like, you ain't gonna call me a liar. I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
But today, speaking of this, the main lady with NAREP, whenever the Q&A happened, she said, tell us about cold calls. Like, you built your business with cold calls, and, you know, how did you start? And like, how can you get these agents, you know, into the mindset? And I was like, well, the first thing you got to realize is that it's the only way to do it. And what I mean by that is that even when you get a Zillow lead, a YouTube lead, a Instagram lead, whatever, you still got to talk to them, and they've never talked to you before. And that's kind of the definition of a cold call. Like, you're cold, no matter what you do, you're cold calling.
Unless you have a relationship, it's always going to be a cold call.
Yeah. The first time you talk to somebody, it's cold. Whether they met you or filled out a form or did this or that, it's still going to be the same thing. And so, and I was like, okay, how many of you guys at open house have ever had anybody act like somebody walk in and act weird at an open house? Right? I was like, how many Zillow leads have ever been mean to you? You know, how many door knockings have ever slammed the door? Like, you can't get around this. It's the same thing. You can't get around losing deals. You know, I've lost, you know, like I said in there, I've lost way more deals than I've ever closed. Like, that's just part of the thing. You can't get around rejection either. So you just got to be the buffalo. You got to realize, like, this is the quickest way.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you do lead gen wise, it all comes back to conversation anyway. Instead of letting another platform dictate how many I'm going to get, what the quality is, and what I'm going to pay for them, I would like to control how many I get, what I pay for them, and what the quality is. You know, how many I get, pay for it, and who they are. And so I'm just trying to like help agents realize you don't have to cold call. That's fine. I don't care about that. But at least understand what the math is to get where you want to be, so you can get there as quickly as possible, so you can move on with your life. Because I know you don't want to do this. You know, you've told me, industry.
Yeah, the industry is proven to otherwise if you say that you do want to do this forever. But while those of you who are in it and you love it, right, we're going to give you some strategies as we wrap up. Listings, you heard Ricky say, like, this is the first time in a long time that you can stack listings, right? This is the first time in a long time where listings aren't flying off the shelf, and you can dominate by having your sign in the yard. You know, and I've heard the conversation, do you take an overpriced listing? Do you not take an overpriced listing? Do you take a reduced commission? Do you not take a reduced commission? And I want to give a little bit of, you know, listing nuggets real quick to the agents who are out there. You know, let's say I lost a listing. Well, if you've never lost a listing, you haven't gone on enough listing appointments. I've always said that too, right? And if you've lost a listing and you didn't call to find out why the seller went with someone else, I used to like, I want to know. Like, I want to watch my game day film and say, hey, Ricky's an awesome agent. And I love to learn from others, but I love to go straight to the source. Is there anything I could have done better? Yeah. And sometimes they're going to be like, I'm not telling you. And other times they're like, well, my husband just connected with them on sports, or, you know, there's so many different reasons. Every time I've called, I would get some sort of like, okay. Yeah. And then I started realizing, all right, what's my strategy? Am I going to look them up on Facebook? What am I going to do to research a little bit more? Do I need to bring a partner? If they're a football fan, I don't know anything about football, but I get, you know, like, it's just things that I want agents who are listening, who are in the game right now, who want to be in the game and want to be the buffalo, right? Yeah. This is a storm where you get to separate yourself. This is separation season, right? The person who has the most listings, the person who has, you know, the best marketing strategy and is putting out they're putting out the work, right? They're going to face rejection. We just talked about that. It's an opportunity right now that you guys have to dominate. Ricky, like, for anybody who is thinking otherwise, like, you are seeing it, you're talking to agents all over the country. You've got two types of agents right now, the ones who are winning and the ones who are not winning. And obviously listings have been the lifeline of your business and my business. What can we share with them that's working right now in the agents that you're coaching, and what you're seeing and what they need to know, even after this NAR, you know, settlement and all the noise that we went through? What do they need to know to take action and decide to dominate with listings, so that in the next 90 days, their business looks completely different?
That's good. And I tell agents all the time, if you lose a listing, call the seller and ask and talk to them, because they assume why they lost it and they think they did something wrong. And then they just continue thinking that forever, never realize, because like 80-90% of the time, it was nothing they did. It's like their wife, or it's like the agent that sold on the property, or like you said, the wife liked this person better. Like, it literally, they're like, we loved you, but this little thing that had nothing to do with any of
Our
your
kids play soccer together with this person. It's a lot of different
your
reasons.
listing presentation, like it had nothing to do with it. You know, it was some kind of relationship thing. So that's great advice. What I like my thing right this second, what I think the best opportunity is to just the quickest stuff. I like the outside of for sale by owners and expireds, right? I think that is some gold right now. I'm not a big for sale by owner guy. I never have been. I don't really love for sale by owners, but right now with the way the market is, like I make calls, you know, for video, and I'll call when I've been calling for sale by owners, like I'll look on there, like they're already listed. It's only been for sale by owner for like 3 days. Yeah. Like these for sale by owners are literally listing within like a day or two right now in my market, right? It's crazy. But here's my favorite strategy right now. New construction. Because the thing is rate buy down. The builders are giving so much, right? You got rate buy downs. You even have some dropping their prices a little here and there. You've got closing costs. They've got like washer dryer and refrigerators and stuff like that. Curtains, right? They're giving all kinds of stuff, but the rate buy down is the biggest thing for me. To get that rate, right? That's the big difference maker for me. If I can call a property owner that has an older or smaller home and say, hey, how you doing? Create a little relationship. You know, I see you're in this home. Do you want would you like a new home? Because I can get you in one for like 4.5% or whatever the rate buy down is. And so go into these new construction subdivisions that you like and really getting to know the agents on site, understanding what mortgage payments and rates could be, what the closing costs are going to take care of, what the appliances and stuff they're going to give, know the subdivision, walk through some homes, become super familiar, and then go sell it. And then like look up properties like subdivisions that are nearby that are just older, maybe even the same size or smaller, but older, and call them and say, hey, would you like a new home? Yeah. Because I can get you in one for like 4-something%. I'd love to show it. Even if you're not really crazy interested, I'd still like to show it to you, right? And what happens is something magical because you're not calling them with the traditional, would you sell your house? You're not trying to take something like, hey, you don't know me, I don't know you, but will you sell your house so I can make some money? You know, like we don't know each other, but I'm trying to make some money here. Instead, you're like, hey, I don't care if you sell your home or not. I'm trying to see if you want a better quality of life. I'm trying to offer you a better quality of life, a bigger house, a newer house, a better view, whatever, you know, one that doesn't have stairs or whatever the case may be. And what's cool is most of the time they're not going to be interested in what you're calling to offer them. But now you've started the relationship off on the right foot. Yep. And now they tell you exactly what it is they want to do. You've used that situation as an excuse to create a relationship and a conversation with them. But now your job is to get them to open up to you about what it is they want to do and why, so that you can then help them do it. And this is like the next step most agents miss because they'll hear that and then they'll be like, oh, I'm going to go sell new construction. No, we're just using new construction to get them to tell us what they want to do. Right? That's what we're doing.
And also but I love the part where you emphasize that the rate, right? Because when you're already solving the issue that a lot of people think rates are high, but you're bringing them a low rate up to today's, right? You're also right sizing them if that's what they want. I love the word right size versus downsize, right? What's right for them, right? They're going to decide. You're giving them a solution, but the rate, which is a conversation a lot of agents don't know how to overcome because some sellers don't want to leave their sexy rate, but the rate doesn't matter if they're getting something that's going to solve maybe not necessarily a problem, but give them a better quality of life.
Well, like I was telling your agents, that whole thing about them saying, oh, rates, that's just another way to get you off the phone most of the time. They don't, like, you could give them the best rate in the world and they're not going to do anything, right? And so that's why I like to ask more questions to understand, are they blowing smoke? Or would they legitimately be interested in something if I could find them a better rate? But walking into those situations with something newer, nicer at a really great rate, because they may be sitting on 4.5% now. Well, you can get 4.5%. You can have a brand new home. You can take the equity that you've built and put it into a brand new home and have a better quality of life. It's a really easy conversation that you should be like in this case. Okay, having situations that are exciting to call people about, it crushes any kind of call anxiety that you might have. And this is a lot of time, this is the problem is they don't have a good enough reason to call that gets them excited enough. Because like this is something that like older property owners need to know about. And by you not calling them and telling them, at least educating them about this opportunity, you're really letting people in the community down. Right?
So good.
And so it crushes all that call anxiety, and it should give you a level of excitement where you're just like, I have to, like this, like I was sent on this green earth to call these people to tell them about this thing. And another thing, pick a subdivision, a new subdivision they're building, go look at it and like have this one that's like the thing that you really want to try to like offer them, and have a home in there. Don't say, hey, this subdivision, right? Have a specific home in the subdivision in mind, right? That's the next problem. Some people call sellers and they're like, you know, I've got some properties, you know, I've got these newer homes over here. No. I have this house, this one house. I want to show you this house, right? But also at least call, if not go to some of the other builders, but call at least all the builders and have them email you over their rate sheet and their mortgage stuff and their net sheets and all their stats and all their stuff. That way you kind of have everything right there with what's happening. This is what I would be doing right now, because not only are you pushing the best products out there, the newest with the best interest rates, with all this, you know, these incentives, but you're also creating all these relationships. And so, like I said, if you use this strategy and you go out and you get 10, 20 listings, you created hundreds of relationships with property owners. And the best part is you get to choose who those property owners are, which properties they own. Like you get to literally, that's the cool thing about real estate. You can literally pick out exactly which properties you want to sell, right? You can pick $1 million, you can pick $500,000, you can pick lakefront, you can pick beachfront, you can pick out which ones you want, and then pursue that. It's so cool.
So
and agents don't realize the power they actually have just to have a real estate license.
So good. I would also probably add, and then there's so many ways to sell houses now. You walk in with that solution plus a guarantee sell solution, and it's just like, you're marrying the best of both worlds. It's like, now I got to sell their house. I have a program for that too.
We have plenty of options.
Programs, plenty of options. You can pick how you want to do so. And because you're the guide, you're the problem solver, you look like the hero to them, but they're really the hero. You're the hero to their story, but you're it's just amazing what you can do. I want to thank Ricky for being here. If you guys are not following Ricky, of course, I'm sure you will after this, watching this. And you heard it. He's bringing back 0 to 90. He drops those gems. If you also are not on his email list, I get your emails every week as well. And I love being on them because I do read them. Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate you being here and pouring into the industry. I feel like I'm a better leader today because I got to hear your story. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you
for doing this and blessing our team and everybody who's going to listen to this. So there you go, guys. Ricky Carruth, the one and only.